All right, many thanks for still being there. Of course, Rise and Shine Daily is what we're having right now. And like I said earlier, we are looking at the issue, a health concern, hypertension. What are the causes? How can this be managed? And why do we even have young children come down and very young people come down with hypertension issues? Joining us once again to do justice to this conversation is Dr. Thelma Bassi, who is the senior resident physician, University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, Calabar. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Good morning and welcome. Do we have Dr. Thelma now? Okay, so while we're trying to get Dr. Thelma on, good morning, Dr. Thelma. Okay, we're still having concerns there, trying to link up with Dr. Thelma this morning. We just keep trying to do that, but remember, it's Friday and it's Lifestyle Friday, and we need to talk about some of these health challenges. So in case you're doing some of the things you're not supposed to do, or eating some of the things you're not supposed to eat, or having a lifestyle that can actually ignite what we call hypertension, you definitely have to stop it. And then again, for people that have already come down with this particular condition, what are those things that you need to do, to try to cushion the situation, or to try to protect yourself more? What are those things that you need to know to help you through that period, to manage, that's the word I was actually looking for, to manage the situation and manage it very, very properly as well. Now, these are the line of conversations we'll be having this morning. We really hope that we can have our professional linked up with us this morning so that we can do justice to this particular conversation. But very quickly now, we'll just take a short breather and then try to see how we can get connected with I think is Dr. Thelma back now? Hello, good morning. Okay, so let's just look at some few tidbits and then we get to link up with Dr. Thelma again on this particular conversation. To stay with us. Okay, so let's have Dr. Thelma Bassi over the phone talk to us this morning, because the issue of hypertension is of great health concern to a lot of people. Dr. Thelma Bassi is a senior resident physician, University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, Calabar, like I had earlier introduced before. Good morning, doctor, and many thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How is Calabar this morning?
Calabar is great.
Okay, so you won't be talking to me alone. I have a co-host. Her name is Uyai Anyeken.
Good morning,
Okay.
Dr. Bassi. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning, Uyai. Thanks for having me.
All right. Okay. So getting into the belly of the conversation of hypertension and how it affects the life of people, I think let's just do groundwork. What is hypertension and how do people, become susceptible to that particular disease?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, hypertension can be defined as persistently elevated blood pressure. That is any blood pressure greater than or equal to 140 over 90 millimeters of mercury. You do know that the blood pressure has two components, the systolic, which is the upper component, and the diastolic, often reported as one component over the other. So at any given time, one has a persistently elevated blood pressure, anything greater than or equal to 140 over 90 millimeters of mercury. That can be tagged as hypertension.
Okay, which is still the same thing as high blood pressure as well.
Yes, hypertension is a medical word, but the other term is called high blood pressure. So the blood pressure is a pressure in which the blood flows through the arteries, getting to vital organs of the body. And it's supposed to be at a normal pressure, anything between 100 for the systolic and 80 for the diastolic. It's normal, it tags normal. So 100 over 80, 110 over 80, 120 over 80, 120 over 70. So from it's 100 to 130 for the systolic, and for the diastolic you have 60 to 80. So anything 100 over 60, 110, 60, as long as it just doesn't get to 140 over 90, that's normal. People that have a blood pressure between 130 over 90, we call them pre-hypertension. Once the systolic gets to 130, for us, we target as a pre-hypertensive state. So that's how it is.
Okay, so while we're talking about hypertension as high blood pressure, there's also something called the low blood pressure. And, statistics have shown that even that, or research has shown that even the low blood pressure is even more dangerous than the high blood pressure. So can you just educate us on that?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say which is more dangerous than which. However, like I said, the blood has got to be at a normal pressure. Now, this normal pressure ensures that blood gets to the vital organs and carries the relevant calories, oxygen to those organs. However, if the blood pressure were to fall beyond normal and totally tip, it is impossible for the vital organs to get the calories. In other words, we call it to get perfused. They don't get perfusion. So the kidneys won't get enough blood supply. The brain will not get enough blood supply. Even the muscles will not get enough blood supply. And yes, it is very dangerous because it could lead to kidney failure, renal shutdown, and then even in the brain will be starved of oxygen. And, so that in its own effect actually has a downside too.
Okay, so another thing that is surprising is that we hear that hypertension actually doesn't quite have a symptom. So someone might have been going down, and if you not go to check your blood pressure, you will not know that you're fluctuating between the numbers. What's that like? So how can what's the best way for someone to arrest the situation? Like you just said, once you even start basing into 130 at over somewhere around there, you're already pre-hypertensive. So what's it like without arresting an issue that doesn't show symptoms?
Okay, thanks for that question. Hypertension has actually been tagged the silent killer. That's the name, that's the tag. Now, the silent killer. This is because it doesn't have any sign whatsoever. People are walking and apparently looking normal, and the next thing, they just drop from the complications of hypertension. So hypertension doesn't have a sign. A few lucky people could have some headaches, which, in our environment, every headache is attributed to malaria. So people often overlook the fact that they need to check their blood pressure. Now, this brings us to the risk factors of high blood pressure. So since high blood pressure doesn't have a cure, it is important to know, it doesn't have a sign, it is important to know the risk factors that could predispose an individual to having blood pressure, to having high blood pressure. So if you have these risk factors, you would really need to check your blood pressure often in order to find out if you are developing a high blood pressure or not. Now, the risk factors for high blood pressure include, one, the age. High blood pressure is common in advanced age, the middle age, and the elderly. So people of that age group tend to develop high blood pressure. Two, in black race, blacks are seen to have high blood pressure more than the Caucasians and also Asians. Okay, so those are the races that are affected mostly by high blood pressure. Also, the male gender, males are more susceptible to high blood pressure than females. Okay, and then we also have a family history. If you have a family history of high blood pressure, your father's got high blood pressure, your mother or your sibling or your grandfather and all that, yes, you are more likely to have high blood pressure. And also in people that are obese, people that are obese, people that are overweight and obese, they are more likely to have high blood pressure. We also have people that have sedentary lifestyle, people that don't exercise often, always in one position, do not carry out daily exercises and all that. Those people are also at risk. Then we have other conditions like diabetes. Those conditions, when present, people that have those conditions can actually later on come down with hypertension. So that is for remember, there are two types of hypertension, actually. I should have said this earlier. Okay. Two types. You have the essential hypertension and the secondary hypertension. The essential hypertension is the one most people have. It is actually idiopathic. It means it doesn't have a cause. So that's the one that I'm listing with risk factors for. It doesn't have a cause. It only has risk factors. Now, the secondary hypertension is hypertension or high blood pressure that results from another disease process in the body. Now, there are other diseases that can make someone who didn't have high blood pressure develop high blood pressure, and it's as a result of those disease conditions. That is secondary hypertension, and that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the essential or idiopathic high blood pressure. This one doesn't have a cause. Nobody knows how. But it has risk factors like what I've listed to you a few seconds ago.
Okay.
So those are the risk factors. Yeah.
I think you just did a fantastic job in trying to break down those things for us to be able to understand very well. But let's draw our attention back to something you said, that men have the higher propensity to get hypertensive. Yeah. Why would we say that? What is it about men that would ignite them having a higher propensity to having hypertension?
Well, it's not like there's a particular thing about them. Well, this is based on research work, years and years of research. Okay. Just like I had said, that the black race has also been seen to be more susceptible to hypertension. So now there's no one singular thing that you can say that, because this is what is present in the black race and this is why they're having it. No, not really. But it's like when they do this research work, it's a cross. They actually go around thousands of people and then they bring this data together and analyze it. And in the long run, it's been seen that hypertension, the male gender is more at risk of hypertension than the female. So there is no one thing I can say to you now that would mean that this is the reason why. No. There are other disease conditions that have reasons like that I could have easily said that, okay, this is why. But for this one, there's really no one reason why they'll say, okay, the males are more. But that's what research has shown. So that's how it is.
Okay, then another issue I would like us to talk about is you had mentioned that hypertension is synonymous with the aged, okay? But these days we have young people come down with hypertension. We've seen children that are hypertensive. What suddenly changed?
Okay, yeah, truly. I had said that it's commoner in the middle age and the elderly, yes, for the essential hypertension, and that still remains and still holds true. Now, we will see hypertension in young people, young children, and young adults. You would have to look for the cause of that hypertension. Remember, I said that the essential hypertension, which is the one we know and we're talking about now, doesn't have a cause. It's just there. It's there, and it has risk factors, but you can't pinpoint one thing and this is the cause.
Okay.
However, if you see elevated blood pressure in a child or a teenager or a young adult, let's say 20 years old, that person will need to see a specialist and would have to check for other causes, something that could happen in the body. Could be the kidney, could be the adrenal gland, something would be amiss for us to say this could be the cause of this person's hypertension. In other words, hypertension in a younger age group, like children, teenagers, and young adults, like about early 20s, could be from another disease condition, which be a secondary hypertension.
Okay.
So that one will need to, the physician will need to investigate and find out why. And usually we try to treat that condition that is causing the high blood pressure, along with also treating the high blood pressure.
Okay, so let's talk about something that we also hear that is quite rampant: hypertension in pregnant women or people who just put to birth. After delivery, you hear that a woman probably just died because she didn't notice she became hypertensive after pregnancy. What exactly causes? I know you're saying this hypertension that we know the cause, and another one that is just there. But in terms of a pregnant woman or someone who just put to birth, why are they usually susceptible to hypertension?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Now, nobody knows why a certain percentage of women would have elevated blood pressure in pregnancy. However, remember that pregnancy is we call it a hyperdynamic state. There's a surge of hormones, and there's a whole lot happening within the woman's body. Some women who are predisposed to having high blood pressure in pregnancy would have high blood pressure in pregnancy, and some of them will have very elevated values that could put their life and that of their unborn baby at risk. Now, that is why we advise that once a woman conceives and by her second missed period, she should register in an antenatal facility, in a hospital or a reputable health facility. And then once blood pressure is monitored. Now, once elevated blood pressure is detected in pregnancy, such women are put on medications immediately. There are medications that are safe in pregnancy for women with high blood pressure, because when the blood pressure goes so high, it affects the baby, the woman, also affects the mother. It could lead to all sorts of complications, including loss of life for the mother and the baby. Now, there is some in pregnancy. It is termed pre-eclampsia and eclampsia. So pre-eclampsia, when the blood pressure is elevated, but there are no proteins in the urine. So this is called a pre-eclampsia, and then there are no clinical manifestations like seizures and all of that. Now, when that happens, the doctors put the woman on a medication and actively monitor that pregnancy till term. Sometimes if the blood pressure is too elevated, we try to monitor and get the baby as close to safety of delivery as possible and try to deliver the baby when the lungs can sustain the baby's life, and an incubator can probably keep the baby alive until it is fully mature to go home. And we take the delivery and relieve the mother of the hormones. Really, once the baby is out, the blood pressure becomes easier to maintain. Remember, the baby being there, there's a lot of hormones, a lot of hyperdynamic processes, which worsens the blood pressure. So we time the delivery to get the baby out to safety as well as the mother. However, most of this attention could go on even after the woman delivers, as much as 6 weeks after the woman delivers. Now, such women are usually monitored by the doctors, their physicians, and gynecologists until such those processes, those symptoms, the blood pressure returns to normal and all that. Nobody can really say why some women go have high blood pressure in pregnancy. However, having the first episode of blood pressure, increased blood pressure in pregnancy, puts you at risk of having another one. So what that means is if you're pregnant and you have high blood pressure in pregnancy A, it makes you more at risk of having other pregnancies with having blood pressure in your other pregnancy. Now, women that also have family history of high blood pressure have been seen to develop theirs during pregnancy. Other people, after delivery, the blood pressure remains normal, goes back to normal. That would be good. Others continue from there and
Yeah.
we find some patients that after they put to bed, their blood pressure never normalizes. So we have to put them on a long-term control for high blood pressure. So that's how we do.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say that I have an experience, of in-laws that, came down with high blood pressure during pregnancy, and they've continued to be on drugs even as we speak, even after pregnancy and childbirth and all of that. So sometimes these women just live with it through their lives. Now, Dr. Bassi, I think it now brings us to the management. We know that there's no like outright cure, to hypertension. How do we begin to manage? We know we've heard, you have to, subsidize, cut down on your salt, yes, intake, salt intake, carbohydrate intake, and all of that. And you're beginning to wonder. I remember one time I went to the hospital very quickly now. I think I was having some issues, and then doctor says, you need to reduce your intake of rice. You need to start taking two slices of bread. I was just looking at him. You need to reduce the amount of cake you eat. And I'm like, okay, then take more of soup, and all of that. And I'm like, at this age, reduce all these things. Doctor, what's really happening? But Dr. Bassi, very quickly, let's look at how we can manage the situation.
Okay, so hypertension can be managed two ways. You can do the lifestyle modification and then you do your medication. Now, for the lifestyle modification, remember the risk factors I called out before, and you will have to work on those risk factors. You have to reduce salt intake. Now, salt is one of the things that we don't encourage people with high blood pressure to indulge in, especially adding salt onto food after it's already prepared. So we ask people to reduce salt. So when you cook your meals, let it just get to something you can just have a taste. Once it becomes overly spicy, you just know that the salt is too much. We say reduce to about less than 2 grams a day. So, we don't put salt. Nigerians don't add salt in grams in food. So, but what just add salt to the taste. And thereafter, once the food is ready, do not sprinkle salt while on the table. So that one, take away alcohol. Take away sedentary lifestyle, exercise often, keep a healthy weight. So if you're obese, you have to cut down. If you don't cut down your weight, you're going to worsen the hypertension or be difficult to manage or have other comorbidities. And then for the medication, this is solely for the doctors to do. So you get to your doctor. No two people with hypertension should classically have the same medication. So if your friend is taking medication A, that doesn't mean that medication A will be okay for you. There are different kinds of medication for different reasons. So you have to see your doctor who would decide what medication is good for you and put you on this medication. And then you have to be compliant on your clinic visit. In other words, you can't just take the drugs home and disappear. People take medications home and don't resurface until they come with a stroke. You can be taking the medications and it's not controlling your blood pressure. You wouldn't know except to come to the hospital. So you can come to the hospital and the medications can be adjusted. They could add on something, they could take out something, they could modify your dose, and then you would be fine. So it's not just taking the medication, it's also being compliant with clinic visits, so that your doctor can monitor the blood pressure alongside your medication.
Okay, I think that is, very elaborate.
Yeah. But I think before we even go, you said something about morbidity, and then you also said something about leading to stroke, which means that hypertension can cause other, illnesses. Maybe you can just run that in just 1 minute because our time is up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no problem. Hypertension is a silent control. Complications from head to toe. You could cause a stroke warning, which could go any which way. The person could die instantly or then maybe recover and become a vegetable. So a stroke, and then in the heart, it could cause cardiac arrest, it could cause heart failure. In the eyes, it could cause what we call hypertensive retinopathy that could lead to blindness. Now in the kidneys, it could cause kidney failure. Okay, so the effect of hypertension cannot be overemphasized, because every day where I work, the University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, at the accident and emergency, every day we are on call. I mean, every day we have nothing less than 2 to 3 stroke cases on admission every single day. So, and it said that about every 4 to 6 seconds, somebody has a stroke. And the commonest cause of stroke in our environment is uncontrolled hypertension. And we're seeing people dying, young people, middle-aged people, elderly dying from stroke. Please, I want you to get the word around on your show. Everybody should be conscious. Check your blood pressure and see a doctor. If your blood pressure is persistently above or equal to 140/90, you need to see a doctor to prevent the complications.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Telma. You have something to say?
Just a minute, because she landed on something that is very important. When you say check your blood pressure, what's the easiest way to get that done? Walk into a hospital, primary healthcare facility. What's that? Please throw that at the audience for us.
Oh yeah. These days, people can buy the electronic sphygmomanometer from pharmacy, so you can have your own, so that you don't need to leave your house. Every time you get a headache, just before you rush for that malaria medication, can you please do me a favor and check your blood pressure? So you can branch a pharmacy, check your blood pressure, branch a hospital. I think it's commonplace now. You can check your blood pressure anywhere. You can also own your own machine and check at home. And anytime you notice a persistently elevated blood pressure over or equal to 140/90, persistently, please look for a doctor immediately.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Telma Bassi, Senior Resident Physician, University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, Calabar. Thank you so much for your time. It was quite interesting. I think we don't have this kind of interesting conversations when it comes to health. Health talks can be very boring because you'll be hearing big grammars and terminologies and ailments. But thank you so much for making it quite interesting for us to understand.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. But serious concerns, you know that some people, when once we get a headache, it's like, oh, I have malaria and all of that. So it's,
or you just go popping, the pills, pain relievers.
And I think something else that she said, right, that is very, very important. No two people should be using the same medication for hypertension. So if you're having hypertension and the next person is having hypertension, whether you two are living in the same house, do not go for the prescription of that other person. Rather, seek a physician to look at you properly. Well, this is the most we can take on the show this morning. We want to say a very big thank you to you for being part of it all through Monday to Friday. We'll definitely see you again on Monday. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a great weekend.
My name is Uyai, and again, thanks to everyone who was a part of the show today and all through the week. Let's do this again next week. Bye-bye.